fantastic. This is GT Racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going with the outside of both of them. Maloney!
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God! Oh, big crash. Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled.
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go. Oh no!
That's massive. This is it. This is over. I can't believe this. Oh my God.
God, what?
Assist to the front bumper, and he hits him again now. Rayon Fowler into the outside wall.
He's gonna pass nearly 3 cars down that front straightaway, and he's gonna get them all done with. What amazing!
Lee to the inside goes Logan Cloudman is gonna touch in. Pit press sideways. What a save!
Look to the outside as Cronkite goes off. De Jong into second place.
Going for the switchback. Oh, pinpoint driving.
It's howling down to the inside.
He's trying, there's contact though.
Slide left of the racetrack. Chris Benner drives it back down underneath, and he takes that second spot right back. Joker goes to Garrett Lowe.
Garrett Lowe should take victory with all that contact.
He's going to try and make the move around the outside the parabolica. That's not going to work, but he's going to try and get the cut back here. Get the run out the parabolica. That's beautifully done there. Makashube, there's a little bit of door banging as well.
It's a track which goes down in history. Whether you like it, whether you don't like it, this track holds heritage. It holds legacy. It holds lineage. It's a track which, for all intents and purposes, is my most favoritist track you ever get to call racing on. It's always about a thrill ride around this place. Welcome to Romagna. Welcome to Imola here today. Your iRacing Grand Prix series on SimSpeed TV is going off ready with action for you, and at a crucial stage in the championship where everybody is going to be searching for points, and important points on top of that as well, because we are at this stage in the championship now where we're hitting round 7. We're hitting now about big points. We're talking about getting to the magic number of 8. Get your 8 best weeks in, or get your first 8 weeks in. Then the final 4 rounds of this championship are about consolidation and improvement. My name's Jake Sperry, joined alongside by Cameron Dance here for this one, along with Scott Fountain on the cameras here today. The first qualifying times coming in on the board, 8 minutes, 2 laps to work it all out. Tom Volstra currently cleared by almost a second.
Very solid start to qualifying for Volstra, as he's been a very, very good competitor all season long and has been up there or thereabouts at least. So it'll be interesting to see where he puts himself at the end of qualifying, but certainly the start that he needed for sure.
Exactly, the fiercely forward car, 1:16.207 is on a second lap at the moment, with Jorge Martinez in second position, and Nico Vairinen there in third position. That's just another tough name that gets put into the books here on a Saturday night or a Sunday morning. Michi Kaiser picked up the win at Monza, goes to third position in qualifying, but Volstra through the Variante Alta, or just the Variante now you could say, because there is no Variante Bassa anymore on this layout, on the brakes down the hill into Ravazza 1. Then Ravazza 2 follows very, very quickly afterwards. It's always tough. Tapio Markala goes into second position, but Volstra here will be searching for a little bit more time, making a push over to the start-finish line. And ultimately, what's the answer going to be? Well, he has just moved himself another 1/10 of a second quicker, 1:16.160.
So very, very much some decent pace in that car this week for Volstra, but going to be interesting to see what happens with the rest of the time starting to come down across the line, and looking like no one's really topping his times either. So probably going to be a fair assumption he's going to be on pole at this stage, but who knows?
Well, there are drivers out there who could put some times in on the board. The championship leader going into this event by 40 points is Javi Rose right now. 40 is not very much when we're talking about this championship. He puts a 16.8 down on the board. That puts him into 6th position right now on the screen that you can see right now. So he's got one more lap to work with, but Javi Rose is probably in that position here of damage limitation. There is no Yartean. That'll be good news for him, but the other bad news about Yartea not being here is that he uses one of his 4 drop rounds, and in fact, he missed 1 round earlier this season, did Yartea, and so that would be the second of 4 drop rounds used. And to note that he's only 200 points behind coming into this one. We're talking minimal gains because people have already found points during the week. This is the time where you need to start finding big victories and quick.
Certainly is, especially in these last dying stages of the championship, where you're going to have to use those drop rounds as well towards the championship and using them to your advantage depending on where you sit in relation to everybody else. So you really kind of can't afford to use your drop rounds as an actual drop round and just use them as more or less a drop score rather than a fat zero.
Exactly, and it's that fat zero that a lot of drivers definitely do not want. Through the final Ravazza onto this very, very long straight, which winds to the right and winds back to the left again after what is a very small turn number 1. Nice narrow line, 1:16.3. That's a really good time from Javi Rose. Moves up into third position. Michi Kaiser did just jump up, though, into that second place, which is a lot of good news in terms of that sort of time. But just looking around, seeing if there is anybody out there on laps at the moment, the answer to that one is a very firm no. At this moment, nobody is out there on track, and nobody, in terms of the time remaining, is going to be able to get out and around and set another representative flying lap. So what we have the ability to do for you, ladies and gentlemen, is take ourselves Over towards the starting grid then. This is probably going to be how everyone stacks up for this. We look at one driver getting some practice laps in. That's Dylan Freckleton in the Club UK and McLaren MP430. But Tom Volstra then will be on the pole position with a 1:16.159. We'll have Michi Kaiser alongside in second position with Javi Rose in third position, the championship leader. Tapio Markala will start from fourth place with Matt Wood, the number 1 driver in this field. He starts from position number 5. Jorge Martinez joins on the third row with John Miller the third starting in 7th position. Then it's Nico Verninen in 8th position with Reynaldo Augusto in 9th and Jacob Swiderski running at the top 10.
We're back to Nick Harwood, Sergio Fletcher, Linus Iring and Ewan Meredith, Dylan Freckleton, Daniel Beater, Dan Buffton, Mitchell Green, and then Bruno Canavas, Connor Harrington, Stephen Chantal, and then Udo Villa and Alexia Loma rounding out the field.
And it's worth noting that Alexia Loma will start ahead of Edu Villa on the grid. That is due to how iRacing orders the grid after every qualifying session. If nobody sets a representative flying time, then they have to order it on iRating, and that is determined by car number. So Alexia Loma has the number 2 on his vehicle, Edu Villa the number 19. So it's pretty clear cut who is going to be ahead. But it's 41 laps worth of racing. There is one mandatory pit stop here in this series. You can see the grid for you up on screen right now. Tom Volstra, currently the fastest driver in qualifying right now. You can see the likes of Verinen in 8th position, who will be definitely looking to try and move on forward, or Viranen, I should say, at this stage. We're going to debate about that all day long. But Jacob Swiderski and co in 10th position. You can look on down. This mid-pack might get a good advantage. Remember, there was a race let's put it down to a date, about 15 years ago, where Michael Schumacher started from position 13 and very nearly got the race win, were it not for a very triumphant Fernando Alonso. So you could definitely say that this track has an opportunity. Daniel Bieder from 16th may have a chance today, but also it's very, very congested in towards Tamburello. And of course, the shrine there for the legendary Ayrton Senna, who lost his life May 1st, 1994. But that run to Tamburello is going to be key. There's the track and air temps on your screen. It's a pretty ideal day for racing. I think it's the right way to say for these drivers, and they've got to work it all out. How's this going to play into the factors that we have today, and how will that pit stop really change the elements of what this race has to offer? You're watching, of course, on SimSpeed TV. If you haven't already, you can like, you can share, you can subscribe for more amazing sim racing action that will be coming up. And of course, in just over 10 hours time, we're going to Scops at Belle Isle. You'll definitely want to tune in for that one. Tom Volstra, though, on the pole position. Michi Kaiser, likes of Javi Rose. This is going to be a difficult challenge. 41 laps then are on the clock. The lights procedure starts, and let's get ourselves underway here from this wonderful circuit. It's a good start then off the line by Volstra, but look at this. They go on through a little bit of too wide. Kaiser doing well on the defense. They funnel away through towards Tamburello. Someone's in the grass and off already in the early stages, taking a escape route through the grass, gravel. Sorry, that's Sergio Fletcher, who's got it all wrong then off the start, trying to make this one happen. But ultimately, in the early stages, it's nice and calm at the front. Volstra got what he wanted, but Javi Rose got the jump on Michi Kaiser.
Yeah, apparently didn't. As a result, got it up the inside on the way down into turn number 1 and got the move done to move himself into second. So it's a very, very good start for Rose and very good start for Volstra as well. And this is the gap that he probably needs as well. Does Volstra to just pull away from the rest of the field, but we'll certainly wait and see what happens as to whether Javi Rose is going to be able to get up there and fight him.
Down the hill, Acque Minerale, and back up the hill for the mid-pack right now. Dan Buffton, Daniel Bieder, Dylan Freckleton. Got likes behind of Alexia Loma trying to make some places here as they head towards this very awkward chicane of the Variante Alta. Has been changed, a bit of side-by-side as well between Chantal and Fletcher. That's Chantal finding a way through. It's a tough track to find overtakes on, as you will be needing that DRS on that front stretch. You've got all that run to Tamburello, which becomes the prime place to make moves happen around this one. But a lap of 41 already scored in the books as they jam on the brakes at the front of the field into the opening corners once again. It seems like Ewan Meredith under pressure here from Nick Harwood, who gets that dive on the inside and makes the move pretty comfortably there to get that one done, as there was also a move going on as well in the background that we caught eyes on going on through. So some nice moves up and down the order then as this race gets off to a pretty clean start.
He seems to have been pretty well behaved to have managed to get through the first lap or so with little to no contact, if any. So very, very good, and also some very good moves being pulled by various different drivers like the Harwood being past Meredith. But certainly it's all starting to become a little bit of single file, and Volstra's really started to actually check out from Harvey Rose here a little bit.
And that's going to be a little bit concerning here in terms of this race. We look at Dan Buffton, Connor Harrington, though, as they start to climb the hill. You can tell it's Dan Buffton in the orange machine here, as this looks like the move could have been there at the Variante Alta. It's a tough place to get the move done, but now as you descend back down the hill, looking back towards the village, it's another place to try and get everything going. It's a very unique circuit as well. The fact that part of the village actually does form on the inside of the circuit, and that is Buffton and Harrington close. Javi Rose sets the fastest lap of the race, and it's got some side-by-side. I wondered there if we saw a little bit of issues there in the background, but we're okay for the moment. Reynaldo Augusto doing okay. There's Sergio Fletcher in 20th position. He's all right for the time being, and Edu Villa in 21st place. There's someone in the pits. That's Mitchell Ian Green, who ran into troubles, and I think that was at Ravazza, which I caught out of the back end of shot, and it was who got contact with Sergio Fletcher on the run down in.
Looks like they more or less came together, and Green
Netcode
more or less just tuning in on him, and a bit of netcode involved as well, unfortunately. So that was a big impact for Green, and unfortunately his race is probably going to be well and truly done as a result.
Well, he'll also be very, very glad the fact that he is sim racing from a seated position, which does not move, because he was sent for a roller coaster of a ride in that crash that he had. He got air, he was spinning around, and the G-forces would have been something pretty sickening, I would have thought, from that area. But let's look at the leaders right now, because Tom Volstra has been unable to break away in the opening couple of laps from Javi Rose in second position. Car 4 and car 5 at the moment trying to drive on towards Tamburello once again, but crucially a couple tenths of a second this time in favour of Tom Volstra. That would be partially the dirty air effect that's brought out in these vehicles, and this is a track which actually is pretty heavily affected by that dirty air, so you have to be really, really cautious about the way you drive around this place. But not only that, you have to stay within a range, and it's a tough place to make that happen.
Certainly is, and the last thing you want to do is lose that DRS or lose the advantage that you possibly have on the driver ahead of you. So Harvey Rose is going to have a lot of work here to try and drive around that dirty air and push as hard as he can to try and use those tyres to his advantage. What doesn't want to do it too hard and end up burning them up, but he certainly needs to get a move on if he wants to try and do it. And Volstra with a mistake on the way up towards the Alto, and he's going to try and make a move with Harvey Rose, but not quite going to be close enough. Looks up the inside though.
Looked at the inside, didn't quite find it. We did also see Dan Buffton lose 2 places to Connor Harrington and Alexia Loma back in the pack, fighting it out for 13th, and a lot more, I think it's supposed to be said at this moment, as there is Alexia Loma down the inside and up into the sweet 16th place. Now focusing on Daniel Beda just in front of that, but the focus, surely you would have to say, is on the battle for the lead, because here comes Javi Rose. He'll have to go the long way around to make this one happen here at Tamburello, but Volstra gives him the outside track, says you're going to have to work for it, and ultimately Javi Rose not able to make it happen then through Tamburello. But this is a really, really interesting battle. The more they start fighting, as wide goes Volstra at the Villeneuve chicane, the legendary Gilles Villeneuve. It's named after his last big battle coming here in 1982. But now you start seeing here, they're going to start holding each other up a little bit, and that's going to bring Michi Kaiser, Tapio Markala into the fight, and maybe Jorge Martinez if they're not too careful.
Definitely, if they're not careful, they're going to end up in a little bit of strife as well. So really have to sort of try and work together here while also racing each other as hard as they dare. So It'll be interesting to see what happens and who's going to end up coming out on top in that battle. But certainly you can see it's very, very busy further back as well for the likes of Alexia Loma, who's recovering not too badly at this stage, but certainly needs to get a bit more of a move on, sitting down in 16th at the moment. So we'll see how he is going to progress as the pit stops start to come through. But he's all over the back of Daniel Beta at the moment, who's trying everything he needs to try and do at this stage to hold him off.
Well, there's the awkward situation here of car one lap down just in front of him. That's Stefan Chantal, who is not fighting for position here in this battle, but Beta doesn't get a good run here coming up onto the main straight. So Alexia Loma can immediately move to the hard left-hand side, trying to open up the door. And now you can see here how you battle side by side towards Tamburello. Latest on the brakes is a Loma who picks that one up with a nice sweep down the inside, and there's a spinner right in front of them, straight across the circuit. Oh, no, that was nearly Dylan Freckleton, I think, into everyone there. Had no power on the exit then as he was disrupted by the flow behind Linus Areng, and he has done so well not to hit anyone coming back on track.
It certainly has, and it was very lucky as well. Could have actually out Linus in the way it looked. It was very much a messy moment, but yeah, that's
Harrington in
not
the wall.
the idea.
So just after that, Villeneuve chicane, Connor Harrington caught out by one driver. He's hit the wall and he has flipped right over the circuit and somehow missed everyone.
Yeah, that was very, very lucky. I did wonder if he was going to end up hitting it with where he went off, and it's very, very hard to get back on the circuit there. So very, very unfortunate. He was actually looking to size up the likes of Beta and Aloma at some stage, but unfortunately that's not to be now.
Certainly isn't. So your leading two stay as they are at the moment. 0.4 of a second splitting them right now as they go into the Tamburello section for the 7th time out of 41 revolutions of this wonderful, wonderful circuit here in Emilia-Romagna out in Italy. But again, Tom Volstra has got to be very, very cautious here with Javi Rose behind. Michi Kaiser has profited already by being third and winning a race at Imola earlier on this season. But there are also battles going on. Jacob Swiderski wants a little move done for 8th and 9th because this is Nico Veyrinen in what is going to be 9th position here, hoping to hold on to that 9th. He's -1 for the day so far, but Swiderski all over the back, wants in, as does Nick Harwood.
Yeah, they both want in that fight, certainly, and they're going to make it very, very difficult for each other to try and find a way on by, especially Harwood, who wants to get by Vyron, and also Swiderski with the fact that he's stuck behind both of them. Looks like he didn't quite get too bad of an exit, but he's going to need to do it a little bit better than that. But he's going to lead this time by, and it's on for the lead though between Volstra and Rose. Rose is going to have DRS on the way down the front straight, and it's going to be a very, very easy move for him. But Volstra is sticking with him reasonably well in the draft, but not quite going to be able to get it back.
Well, Javi Rose now decides he's had enough of waiting and takes the race lead away from one Mr. Tom Volstra, who struggled through the Ravazza section there. The two 90-degree left-handers, which are so underrated in terms of how difficult they are in terms of corners, because you're going down the hill and then you've got a very, very tough, flat 90-degree left to follow that one. So Javi Rose takes the race lead away. In terms of that battle that we were looking at, Swiderski was unable to go and make that move and make something happen of it out there on circuit. But there is still time in this race and a lot of it. But now we've got to start thinking here at this stage about pit stop windows, because these soft compound tyres, this is a track which is very aggressive. You're going through a lot of corners with a lot of load going through the tyres, Cam. So how much are these tyres going to be used up here today?
Certainly going to be used up quite a bit with the amount of turning and the amount of load, I guess, that's going to be going through them. We're probably going to find some drivers will look after their tyres a little bit better than others, the likes of Aloma and Rose and Volstra, probably going to be able to go a little bit longer than some of the other drivers who might struggle with their tyres, but we'll have to wait and see. And another thing is also that clean air for the likes of Volstra and Rose, who are not going to be having to deal with that dirty air, which is going to be burning up those soft tyres even quicker. So it's going to be one of those things where if you're stuck in traffic and burning up the tyres, you might not be a bad idea to do an undercut strategy.
definitely could seem like a good way to get this race working here as we focus on 9th, 10th and 11th here, going through the Tamburello chicane, moving towards the Villeneuve chicane. A great run off the exit there by Jacob Swiderski from Tamburello. Unable to get a long enough straight, though, to make it happen at Villeneuve. And then, of course, you get this section here, this wonderful left-hand hairpin of Toza back up the hill again. To your one Pablo Montoya, you know that Michael Schumacher's not going to see you out there on circuit, but you know that Jacob Swiderski would want so badly to go and make a move and get close. Everybody running wide there through that section. They'll be picking up a 1x off-track incident point. Worth noting, you pick up 17. It's a drive-through penalty. You hit 25. That's it. Game over. Race done. You're disqualified for being too dirty of a driver.
Yeah, those off tracks you really kind of need to preserve. It's not too bad here at Imola with these sort of cars where you're not trying to monster the living heck out of the curbs and do that sort of stuff and track extend massively, but certainly one of those things you do need to pay attention to and make sure you're not being too aggressive with those off tracks, as the last thing you want to do is end up getting a drive-through penalty or getting DQ'd in the end.
Exactly, that's always going to be key. We're looking, though, with Jorge Martinez and Matt Wood. They are in 5th and 6th position. We're on board with car number 1 of Matt Wood. He's brought the gap down under a second, so he'll be getting the DRS around this place here today. But for the time being, Matt Wood here on what has been Saturday evening, Sunday morning broadcasts for those, of course, in the Australasian Peninsula. It's not been the best or the most happiest of hunting grounds. He's looking for a good result. He's had a couple here over the last few weeks, but now's the time to kick on.
It's been, I guess, a bit of an average year for him in the results department. He's not been there. Well, he's been there or thereabouts, but it's not been the sort of results that I guess we'd expect from someone like the number 1 car with having so much hiring. But certainly he's giving it a red hot go and trying everything that he can to do and get those results. But certainly does need to try and get a move on here if he wants to find a way up at Marquez.
Exactly, he's got to try and get as close as possible. Look at the run, though, that Volstra's got. He's got a really good drive here, trying to get past Javier Rose to the outside, trying to make it happen side by side on the brakes, and they'll battle all the way through Tamburello as the inside is given to Javier Rose. Volstra yields the place, but ultimately, that's a really strong sign that Tom Volstra knows how to attack. He loves a car with a bit of straight line speed to it. And he looks for the inside again here at Toza. Door left wide open, but outside track, able to put the power down earlier. Again, Javier Rose defends it.
Rose doing a fantastic job to try and hold off Tom Volstra here, who's not giving this one up easily and is trying to make it life difficult for Rose at this stage, but we'll see what happens and whether Volstra decides to come down onto the lane a little bit earlier than Rose and try and use that undercut strategy, but we'll have to wait and see. And you can see Volstra just so much better on the brakes as well, but just can't quite get the exit and was very, very aggressive over the curbs there. All 4 wheels off the deck as well.
All 4 wheels off the deck, those anti-cut curbs. You do have to be aggressive with them, but it's so easy when you go and attack those curbs to go and spin at a corner like that, especially for people who struggle, as Nico Veyrinen has a little moment, able to gather it up on the exit with Swiderski and Harwood behind. It's so easy to get it wrong if you're maybe not prepared for the way you need to attack that section of road. So how do you go through the Variante Alta, especially in open Formula vehicles, which hate anti-cut curbs with a passion?
Well, the 2 strategies, I guess. It's pretty much either send it over the entire top of them and be as aggressive as you want, or take as little as you want and try and use that to your advantage. It really just does come down to what your car's doing in terms of setup, because obviously some setups will suit the using more curb a lot better than others. So it really is going to depend on what your driving style is and what your setup is going to be doing in terms of whether it's going to be able to handle those sort of curbs well or not. But certainly it's working quite well for Volstra at the moment.
Certainly is, as they make that battle and go on through, and that's a bit of curb there on the exit for Javi Rose, who tries to get on through, and I wonder if he may be cautious about trying to serve penalties here and there. Of course, the slowdown penalties around this place are very, very notorious. There has been, though, a little look forward, though. A little look further back, though, in terms of these battles, because Alexia Loma has just found the next couple of drivers that he wants to target 14th and 13th place. We catch a Motum simulation replay here of what is not Bruno Canavas, sorry. Dan Buffton's the car behind, but this is the battle that was going on 16th and 17th, and that's a spin.
Certainly a spin that he's not going to have wanted at all, and he's nearly hit the wall as well. So certainly not what he will have wanted, and it's going to have cost him a lot and probably damage those tires as a result. But you can see here now Matt Woods actually has managed to get on by Marquinez, and he's going to want to try and pull away as well, and going to be on the hunt for Michael up the road.
And there has been a change of positions. Nick Harwood has just dropped back behind, just gone through on Jacob Swiderski. Turn one on the inside. Swiderski very nearly getting grass under brakes, which was a little scary for him, but able to pull the car up, and ultimately now is in the clutches of Ewan Meredith in 12th place, who wants to go +3 for the day so far here on lap number 13. Lucky for some here on Halloween night as we get themselves a little bit of looks forward, though. Top two at the moment. Well, they looked like they were breaking away in the earlier stages of this race, but Michi Kaiser's just put some nice consistent laps in. Look at what that gap is between Kaiser, Bolstra and Rose. 1.8 seconds splitting the top three.
Certainly a bit of time separating them, but not a lot between that top two at the moment, as Volstra's got DRS and is going to be trying everything. Goes to the outside of Rose on the way into the first chicane, but can't quite pull up alongside enough to get the move done. So he's going to have to sit station for a little bit longer, and going to have to keep on pressuring Harvey Rose until a possible mistake, but can't see that happening anytime soon. He had a look on the way into the second chicane as well.
That was brave, having a think about a move there. He's looking at the unorthodox places now, trying to keep Javi Rose on his toes right now as they go through Tozer and up towards Piratella Corner, the 90-degree left-hand bend, which crests the hill and then dives back down it once again in towards Acqua Minerale, this brilliant double apex right, which has had many iterations over the years. A good run up the hill, though, from Volstra. This could really open up opportunities with a good run through the Variante Alta chicane, the rise, and all about putting the power down early there. And they're on the AstroTurf on the outside, which makes life difficult to try and put your feet down and give yourself a really good run at attacking. So you have to be cautious about the way that you go through that section. And every single time they go on through, they're going to be worried about the cars behind. No takers from the front three then into the lane. But look at Volstra. He'll use the DRS again. He'll get another sterling run, and he'll go to the outside. And surely this time he's got this one sorted. 2/3 of a car length, but he has to go the long way round to make it happen. And yes, position is there, but the chops and changes, and round goes Volstra.
And he's at the wall too, so he's going to damage that front wing. Michael has to take evasive action to not run into him, and same with Matt Wood and Marquinez, so he's dropped well outside the top five.
Be careful. Got to be careful. He can't drive backwards too much on the circuit. He will get disqualified for it. I think he got away with it, though. Volstra's able to get going again, and he's behind John Miller the third now, and right in the group with Reynaldo Augusto, Veyrinen, and then you've got the likes, of course, of Harwood, Swiderski, and Meredith. It's a 6-car train now that's starting to form in the mid-pack, but a big mistake there for Tom Volstra. It's the last thing that you would be expecting of him, and now all of a sudden that spin has brought Michi Kaiser within a second of Javi Rose for the lead.
Definitely has. So Kaiser's going to be trying to hunt down Javi Rose here, and he's not too far off from getting DRS as well. So if he can push a little bit harder and get that DRS, he'll be in with a very, very good shot of a possible win here if he can use the strategy right. So we'll have to wait and see what happens, but certainly not the race that Tom Volstra was hoping to have happen to him with that spin, and was very, very lucky not to have anybody hit him on the way by, but certainly very, very damaged front wing, I'd say, based on the impact with the wall, and he's decided to come down onto the lane as a result as well.
No surprises, and off goes Veyrinen as well, and that is at the second Ravazza corner, as there was a spin in front from Reynaldo Augusto, who pushed too hard through that section, and then trying to check up for it, there was contact between Veyrinen and Harwood, who just about slowed it down. Veyrinen had to take the long road through the gravel to make it happen, and through all of that, Jacob Swiderski couldn't quite pick up the move, so Harwood now jumps up into 7th place.
Certainly going to be now on the hunt to try and hunt down John Miller and probably going to be wanting to pull away from this little group as well, which he's been stuck in for so long. Meredith is not going to give up, and nor is Swiderski, so it's going to be a real test of whether Harwood's got enough pace to try and pull away from this little group here. Looks like he's just starting to pull a little bit of a gap, but still needs to find a little bit more pace and try and break out of DRS range as well.
Exactly. DRS range is 1 second here in this one, as there is Linus Areng just running a little bit too deep there through Aqua Minerale, and he was struggling a bit. There's Jacob Swiderski in 8th place on the screen that we are looking at right now, and he's trying to stay with Nick Harwood. He's doing a pretty good job of things, I think is the right way to say at this moment in time. No takers onto the lane this time by, it seems, except for Ewan Meredith, who decides it's his moment to come down in and make a stop on sweet lap 16. We are right in the window here for what looks like it could be a soft day.
Certainly could be very much a soft day. It's only 28-degree track temp as well, so tyres aren't really going to be struggling too much for wear, with the fact that it's going to be a nice cold track. So we'll have to wait and see what happens and whether it's going to end up working out in the end, especially with the fact that this race is 40-odd laps, so it's a little bit early, more or less, to be coming down onto the lane, but he'll be able to get that on his way, certainly.
Yeah, there's definitely an undercut strategy coming in for a couple of drivers here and there. So we'll see how that one all plays out. We also need to keep an eye out on the number 4's times. Has just done the outlap and struggled a little bit actually on the exit, because Ewan Meredith just came out of the pits and they are right next to each other. So that was a really good stop by Ewan Meredith. Of course, that front wing change would have costed about 6 seconds in terms of the stop for one Mr. Tom Bolstra. So he is down a little bit in terms of time, but now he's right in the middle of that scrap here. 17th place he's in at the moment.
Definitely. So he's going to need to try and press on here. Just needs to do as best as he can from this stage and just try and drive the wheels off it. Not quite literally, but just manage those tyres and use the pace that he's got to try and recover some form of a result in the end, because he's not going to want to be having a 17th place finish as his drop round in the end.
He definitely doesn't, and especially when this series is so close on points. There's your championship leader in position number 1 at the moment, Javi Rose. You need to find points. You need to find points quickly. 2 drivers at the front of the field both have race wins to their name so far this season, Javi Rose and Michi Kaiser. Rose has got 2. Kaiser's only got the 1 here on Saturday night, Sunday mornings here with SimSpeed TV. And at the moment, Michi Kaiser is doing a really good job of staying here with Javi Rose for this race lead. The gap has stayed around 7-8 tenths of a second. Not close enough to make a move, but it's enough to just put enough pressure in to say that Javi Rose has to do a good job right now. Again, both stay out. I wouldn't be surprised to see them stay out for another 2 laps then in this one as they cross the stripe right in the middle. The gap's down to 6 tenths of a second. That's awkward on the exit. Traffic has to stay out of the way. That's Dan Buffton coming out of the pits, but ultimately here, Michi Kaiser is giving Javi Rose a race.
Certainly is. He's making him work for his Kaiser, and he's doing a fantastic job as well. Pace is actually slightly quicker than Rose last time by just over half a tenth, so he's got the advantage in his favour of pace at the moment, albeit a minuscule one, but he's certainly going to be using that to his advantage to try and hunt down Rose ever so slightly and just continue to apply the pressure for the rest of the stint.
Middle of the third, Swiderski and Veiranen are all down in on the lane, making stops, and they'll be out and away shortly. Canavas is off the road, and that is awkward, and he's in the wall and around with no rear or front wing on that McLaren MP430. So very much going for the no-drag IndyCar spec, I think is the right way of that McLaren MP430 right now, and should be diving down into the pits, and does so.
He's been running around with no front wing or rear wing, for that matter, for the past 2 or 3 laps by the looks of it. So he's had a moment somewhere in a few laps ago where he's ended up getting damaged. So he's managed to bring that thing home quite well, but the leaders are in. So this is going to be very, very interesting to see how this works and who's going to end up coming out ahead of each other.
Well, a lot of drivers have come down into the pits. This will put Matt Wood in the race lead. Jorge Martinez now up into second, but it's now a battle of pit crews between Javi Rose and Mishi Kaiser. So Kaiser will hit his box second, and he'll have to try and react here. Off and away they go, pretty much inside each other as they leave. This is going to be awkward now as they leave the pits. Who's going to try and work out what? They move out of each other's hit boxes to get themselves going, and now it's about power on the exit. Cone taken away by Kaiser. Javi Rose gets the advantage. Then as they get on and going, they're behind Dan Bida, of course, on the medium compound tyre, it seems. Bida is just looking at him. Yes, he's on the yellow wall, so that's going to be worth keeping in mind as they go on through. They'll be battling together. Markela also came into the pits, but the likes of Augusto and Harwood have come in and made their stops, and they're going to be miles behind the likes of Tom Volstra and co, who'd already made their stops.
Yes, certainly. They're going to be quite far behind. And I wonder if just that little bit of checking up between Rose and Kaiser will have held them up a little bit in the pit lane as well, and given some of these drivers a little bit of an advantage to try and close that gap down in what it was before. So, but certainly Kaiser is not letting this one go easily at all. And if anything, he's actually closer after the stop. So he's really going to start applying the pressure to Rose here for the race win. And whether he's going to be able to get it is another question.
Exactly. Look how quickly they're approaching on Daniel Bida, the Israeli driver, the former World Championship Grand Prix Series driver. He did hold the quote-unquote black stripe in the World Championship terms. So they go on through into the Ravazza corner, and now it's about power on the straights. They go on through. Bida decides he doesn't want to come down in. Alexia Loma, though, is in, as is Martinez, as is Matt Wood. So they have all come down into the pits. That will give Dan Bida then the race lead at this moment in time. It's close. They go in towards turns 1 and 2, and suddenly you feel, if you're Dan Bida, this is going to be an awkward little moment where you have to work out at what point do I want to drive my own race, at what point can I, around a very tough middle point of the circuit, work out how to let these two drivers fighting for the race win by.
Yeah, certainly. It's a little bit of a dilemma for Daniel Bida or anyone in lap traffic, really, especially around this sort of track where there's no real opportunities to let drivers on by. But you can see they're all over the back of Bida at the moment, are Rose and Kaiser, and this will be giving Kaiser a very, very nice advantage and chance to close that gap up and possibly make a move if Rose does get held up a little bit more. It looked like Bida was actually going to let them by on the way into Variante Alta, but didn't quite do it in the end. So it's certainly holding up Rose here, but Kaiser's really relishing at this with the fact that Rose is getting held up so much.
Well, here we go then into Ravazza. Look how late on the brakes you got to go. It was almost too late there from Mishi Kaiser, but he gets away with it. Wide on the exit there goes Bida, and all of a sudden, opportunity knocks. They'll both get DRS on the straight, so this could be 3 wide for the race lead right now. Look at this. Kaiser's going through the middle here for this one. He's going to get both of them with the double DRS. On the brakes they go. Javi Rose is late as you like, trying to fight this one off, and I think he's just about held it. What a battle this is.
Yeah, certainly a very, very good move to go round the outside of him as well on the way through Tamburello. So Rose is not letting this one go easily, and he's going to make Kaiser work for this hard.
He absolutely is. Well battled between them. Worth noting that Matt Wood has come out in 5th place, net 4th at the moment. And quite crucially here in terms of this battle here, Cam, is right behind Tapio Markela for the final spot net on the podium.
Yeah, certainly. He's actually started to close that gap down a little bit. Currently has Matt Wood. He's actually got a little bit of pace in hand, probably, I'd say, based on the fact that he's pitted not too long ago. So the tyre advantage is going to be in his favour between Wood and Michael. But certainly Wood's going to need to push on here and really use those tyres up to try and close that gap down and get on by.
Someone losing places at the moment is Edu Villa, who has dropped behind both Alexia Loma and Linus Areng on this lap, down in 13th position right now, which is not where he wants to be, and it could be even worse. This is the drive with the fastest lap of the race, though, Tom Volstra, and he is searching for a move, as is Mishi Kaiser, though, who tries the outside but thinks way better of it in the braking zone. But for the time being, John Miller III is a driver under pressure as Bida finally takes to the pit lane. Volstra will want this move. He'll have to go the long way around to make it happen on John Miller III, but Volstra comfortably gets it done on the brakes.
Yeah, it certainly does. get it done very, very comfortably on the brakes, and will have another position gained as a result. And he'll continue to push on. Currently sitting in P number 7, has pitted already, so doesn't have to worry too much, and did actually take front wing in that pit stop as well. So he's not doing too bad for himself to be in the position that he's at.
He's not doing too bad at all, but look at these leading two at the moment. They've got 5 seconds to Tapio Markala in 3rd place, and they've got to be very, very astute with the way that they battle this race to the end. They've got 17 laps when they cross the line to figure this one out between each other here, as they will go on to lap 24 of 41. In fact, I would say that they have everything to lose and not much to gain between each other having this battle. They want that race win, but they have to be so cautious about the way that they go on and try and get it. It's a good lap that time by from Javi Rossi. He managed to gain about 2/3 of a tenth of a second then on that lap, gives him a little bit of breathing room to Mishi Kaiser, who will now be really feeling the effects of dirty air as he's in that range where he's got to be so cautious now with how he deals with things, but he's doing an okay job of things at this moment in time. Also got the battle going on for 8th and 9th place at the moment on the road as well, because Ewan Meredith has been caught again by Swiderski. As we look at that battle right now, Swiderski trying to chase on down.
Yeah, he certainly is. And they've actually managed to get on by, both of them have managed to get on by Nick Harwood, who's lost a lot of time and is actually down the order as a result. So possibly making some mistakes from Harwood in these recent few laps, but it's certainly on between Swiderski and Meredith. And Meredith's going to have gotten on by, so he's going to try and hold off Swiderski here, but Swiderski seems to have some reasonable pace.
Certainly does. And speaking of drivers who have reasonable pace, just taking a look at the leaders' lap times compared to Tom Volstra. Volstra was 1.2 seconds quicker on that last lap than the leaders.
Yes, that's quite a bit of pace at the moment. So if he can use that to his advantage, he's really going to be in a very, very good spot. But it's on for the lead again, and Kaiser's going to look to go around the outside. Contact between the two of them. Rose has to go off the road. He's going to have a slowdown from that as a result.
Wow, that's not what you want. And just have a little look. Is Mishi Kaiser's front wing okay? Yes, it is. That would be netcode then. Between the two of them, the NHR esports car running into Javi Rose then from behind. It was awkward and just about managing to save it. We've seen quite a bit of netcode here today around this place, Imola, but ultimately Kaiser just about stays in second, doesn't decide to capitalize on that mistake, but that will bring in Markala and Wood back into the fight, and anyone who's got some form of pace will now be trying to close on down these leading two, who are starting to get a little bit too close for creature comfort.
Yes, certainly, and they're not going to let each other go anytime soon either, with the fact that they're racing each other quite hard. But certainly Markala and also Wood really close together now, and they're going to be probably having a move incoming between those two, and certainly going to be probably another move for the lead of the race as well. I'd say this time by between those two groups on the way into turn number 1.
Well, we'll keep a focus on it at the moment. It's on for the race lead. Here comes the move, and this is very telling. He lets off quite early here, did Javi Rose. He wanted absolutely none of Mishi Kaiser. The king himself takes the race lead for the first time on lap 26 of 41 with just a handful of laps to go and a bit more. Well, you could say it's 3 handfuls of laps that they have to end this one out. Mishi Kaiser doing a very, very good job taking the race lead away from Javi Rose. Questions now start to arise. Who's got what left in the final few laps of this race, or the final laps of this race? They start to gear it up as Tapio Markala has lost the place to Matt Wood. That one happening into Tamburello, and again, another case of 3:10 from Tapio Markala going on through. Matt Wood was absolutely flying in comparison. He was up at 3:36 on the limiter.
Yes, certainly, and DRS being a bit of a help for Matt Wood as well, but certainly had the pace to get on by, and it was just a matter of when, not if, for Matt Wood as to when he was going to get on by. It was a mistake there from Rose on the way down towards the final 2 corners, just touched the grass and got a little bit loose, but managed to hold on to it. So very, very lucky there, and possibly mistakes starting to creep in for Rose here.
Well, here's the question now. What's the gap when they cross the line? It was 1/10 in Rose's favour last time by. The gap's up over a second. So that is DRS, the drag reduction system, coming into play. It's a throughput for Dan Buffton, who was now out of the race effectively right now. That will be a real shame for him. He would have wanted as many points he possibly could have had around this place, but now all of a sudden that gap is starting to just creep up again. And keep an eye out on Jorge Martinez in 5th place as 3rd and 4th continue to fight. It's now going to be a 3-car scrap, and if they're not too careful, a 4-car scrap with Tom Volstra 5 seconds behind them.
Yes, certainly. So we're going to have to be very, very careful, and they really aren't going to want to lose too much time either with how much battling they're doing. So they really do have to sort of work together and more or less try and hunt down the cars ahead of them and try and pull away from those behind them.
It's always the plan. We've also got to note that Swiderski is through on Ewan Meredith for 8th and 9th. Alexia Loma trying to chase that little battle down. And we also have this battle going on for 11th and 12th position here on the road. This is Linus Areng, who is under pressure from Reynaldo Augusto, someone who was very, very prominent back in the first run of the McLaren MP430.
Yes, certainly. He's made a name for himself in this car, and he's still doing quite well with it as well. But you can see in this little battle pack, Martinez is going to have DRS on Markela, not quite going to be close enough to get a move, and Matt Wood not going to be under pressure on the way into turn number 1 as well. So they're still going to be single file for the time being. But Martinez is not going to let this one go easily, I don't think. He's certainly going to try and make his way on by Markela as soon as he can.
But you have to look at the times. It was a 19-0 from Matt Wood that last time by. Tom Volstra in 6th place did a 17-7. That's 1.3 seconds, the difference on that lap. So that tells you everything you need to know. Volstra still has eyes on a podium. Something else that's worth keeping eyes on, Javi Rose lost 7/10 on that last lap to Michi Kaiser. The gap's up to 1.7 seconds.
Yeah, so he's been pulling away quite a bit, has Michi Kaiser, probably using those tyres to his advantage now that he's in clean air and hasn't really been abusing them too much. So we'll see what Javi Rose is going to be able to do here, whether he's going to be able to have anything left on the table for him or whether he's used up all his cards. So we'll see what happens this time by in terms of lap time. Kaiser coming down the front string, he's going to cross the line and do a 1 minute 18.0 as Rose comes across the line. Nearly a second slower with an 18.9, so seems that Rose has possibly burnt up those tyres a little bit too early.
Either that or maybe the contact that he had from the netcode hit on the rear wing maybe unsettled something in the suspension or something to that ilk, which would be why he is struggling through a couple of corners after a pretty sizable hit, actually, I think is the right way to say it, Cam, through turn number 1. These vehicles are so sensitive, especially on the suspension. If you take a little copped hit somewhere, you're effectively having to deal with a little bit of left or right hand down to say that in a loose term.
Yes, certainly, and being as fragile as they are, you really can't afford to get any damage of any kind, and whether that's even minor contact, it's going to end up causing you a lot of grief, such as what Roast might be dealing with. So he's really having to do what he can do with what he's got at the moment, but he certainly won't be happy if he's got any damage.
Well, Tapio Markela then in 4th position, car number 10 against car number 1 in front and car number 3 behind. There is, though, a little bit of drama in front. They've got lap traffic in the form of Edu Villa that they have to negotiate on the front stretch. So how is this one going to play out? They'll all get DRS as they bunch up with each other. Matt Wood will zoom on by without too many worries at all, and this will be a case of no moves for anyone as they go on through. So this is going to be a little bit awkward there. Edu Villa doing the right thing, getting out of the way of those drivers who are quicker in front, but now you start wondering, okay, well, what's the gaps looking like here? It's suddenly 3 seconds Volstra to Martinez.
Yeah, so it's very, very close between this little group, and you can see in the background as well that Edu Villa and the likes of Volstra are starting to catch up as well, and Volstra is putting in 18.2s, whereas Martinez, Markela and Wood are all putting in 18.7, so he's got some very, very good pace at the moment, does Tom Volstra, and he's going to be very much hunting them down. It's debatable as to whether he's going to catch up to them or not in the time that he's got with only about 10 or so laps to go, but certainly he's going to give it a red-hot go, I reckon, and it's going to be very, very close.
He's going to get there at this rate. Half a second a lap is good enough. He needs 3/10 a lap if he's to get going, and he's caught Edu Villa coming out then of the Variante Alta. Villa will move over to the right-hand side, and Volstra will be unimpeded on the brakes into the Ravazza section of the circuit. The next question is, again, Michi Kaiser 18-2 as he crosses the line, and a 19-3 from Javi Rose doesn't look good. That's another second that Javi Rose has lost on that lap, and suddenly his gap is 3.5 seconds out there on the road, and Rose could be falling back into Matt Wood, Markula, and Martinez, while Volstra catches all of them up.
Yeah, certainly. So it's really just going to be a matter of they just need to work together and all try and hunt them down and see what they can do from here on out. And really, with 10 laps to go, it's everyone's guess as to what's going to happen and who's going to end up where in the end.
Exactly, every position really does matter at this moment. Every battle seemingly starting to close up a little bit. You've even got this one down for 14th and 15th with Nico Veyrinen and Daniel Bieder going through the opening sections. Volstra's gap down to 2.25 seconds at this moment in time, looking really, really nice at the moment. So there are battles up and down the order, looking like they're going to get close. Bieder has just put the move on Veyrinen, but Veyrinen at Toza tried to fight that one back. But remember, Bieder's got the freshest tyres of anybody in the field. You're not going to say no to that move.
Yeah, you're certainly not going to say no to it. So he's gotten on by Daniel Bieder, and he's going to try and use those fresh tyres that he's got to try and hunt down the likes of Nick Harwood, but we'll have to wait and see what happens. But I'd say he's going to be on for at least the 15th place with those new fresh tyres that he's got on.
Yeah, he'll be definitely looking for a lot more than 15th, though. He's got 4 seconds to Nick Harwood in the not-too-distant future. Updates on the laps. Javi Rose loses another 4/10 to Matt Wood. That's just about what Matt Wood needs. About 4/10 a lap will get him to where he wants to. Markler and Martinez doing an okay job, but Tom Volstra took a good half a second out of Matt Wood. He brings his gap down just around 2 seconds at the moment. So that's another little battle that looks like it could be incredibly close between now and the end of this race. And they know without any shadow of a doubt that they have to be so cautious. And if you're sitting there and waiting like Jorge Martinez is, you have to be so perfectly timed with that move. Because you know, the moment you start fighting side by side with another driver around this place, that's when you don't lose tenths, you lose chunks of tenths.
Yes, certainly, and it's that point that you don't really want to get to either, with the fact that you're going to just lose time, so much time that it's ridiculous and you can't really do anything about it. So you just have to try and work around it and make sure that you're not abusing the tyres too much and losing too much time overall, and really just working at the best that you can.
And once again, fastest of anybody that time by was Tom Volstra, but this was a big closing up in terms of the gaps, because all of the top 6 were split by just 0.2 of a second on that lap, and it was a little bit awkward because nobody gained anything on anybody as they went on through. They're in that clutch mode now where they know lap 32 of 41, not long remaining. They've got to be really, really on it from now to the end. Someone else who's on it and has been all day long is your biggest mover and shaker in the field. It's Alexia Loma, car number 2. He's up 12 places and he's found the back of Ewan Meredith. It could be 13 pretty soon, Cal.
Yep, certainly could be that very, very soon with the way that he's going if he keeps this up. So we'll see what happens and whether he's going to be able to do it. He should be able to do it with great ease, and probably going to have P8 as well if he keeps on having this pace that he's got. But certainly it's been a very, very big recovery for it to go all the way from P22 all the way up into a top 10 now, and on for probably, at least a P9, if not P8.
Exactly, that's the key as they start attacking and looking to try and get themselves as close as possible. There's only one driver in the or under the 18s right now, and that's Volstra. The gap down to 1.7 between himself and Martinez out there on track. That battle between Meredith and Aloma, that one is getting close and almost into a range at this stage. Now look at the run that Aloma's going to get. The second phase when you hit the limiter straight to the inside. Ewan Meredith had nothing for him.
Yeah, he certainly didn't have anything for him in the end, and just blew on by Aloma. So that's another position gained, and he's now going to be on the hunt for Swiderski, who's a lot slower last time by compared to Aloma. An 18.6 for Aloma compared to a 19.3 for Swiderski. So it's going to be at least a P8 finish here. I don't think it'll be a P7, but certainly a very, very good recovery drive here for Aloma.
Yeah, it's certainly been a really good run, and he gained those 7/10, of course, that last time by, and he'll get the DRS benefit on this lap as well, so those are more tenths that he'll be definitely finding, as all of a sudden, Javi Rose has eyes full of traffic in front, and that's Dylan Freckleton there in front, which is going to be a little bit awkward to try and get around, and the time shows 19 flat that last time by. Matt Wood took another second out of him. The gap for second is down to 1.2 out there on the road. Everybody starts to close in, except Tom Bolster, who's maybe started to use up the tyre life a bit too much. He dropped 3/10 on that last time by. The gap came out to 2 seconds.
Yes, certainly. That's quite the differential as a result of that time difference, but certainly it's going to be very, very close and really is going to be, I'd say, probably in favour of Matt Wood, but Royce is not going to let this one go by. Makela.
That was with the traffic, Dylan Freckleton. There was a lack of communication there as they made their way up to Piratella, because that was a case of Freckleton trying to get on the racing line, but look how quickly Makela came up on the scene, just didn't have any way to communicate, and the miscommunication finds Makela in the grass and around at one of the very, very important corners on this track.
Yes, certainly. You can see Freckleton off to the side there, and he nearly made it on by Makela, but unfortunately just Freckleton moved over a little bit and I guess caught him out off guard. So not what Makela would have wanted at all, and he's going to have dropped down a lot of time as a result, and he's going to have lost that chance to possibly get a podium finish here as well.
Exactly. Volstra will look to try and stay close to Martinez in the battle for third and fourth, but it has just opened up the groups just a little bit. So Javi Rose now 1.7 seconds clear of Matt Wood. We have ourselves 5 laps to go when they cross the start-finish line. Michi Kaiser leads this race by 6 seconds here at the front of this field. There was a little bit of drama between himself and Javi Rose, but he has been able to walk away in the second half of this race and do exactly what he has needed to in terms of this one. How is everybody going to react and respond, though, over the final few laps of this race? And that's Aloma in the wall. Aloma has gone around and has gone around just on the exit of Tamburello.
Yeah, he's done pretty much the same thing that Volstra did as well, only he's hit the wall a lot harder and a lot faster as well. So he's been very, very lucky not to get collected by anyone else, but it looks like he is done and out, unfortunately.
And that would have been suspension. That would be the reason why you'd have broken a little thing, as Canavas gets out of the way for Javi Rose in second position right now, trying everything to stay somewhat relevant then in this race, which has seemingly just hit the hot and crazy scale at this moment, tipping over. Rose, though, is pulling away from Matt Wood. Wood's got to be careful, though, because suddenly Jorge Martinez, who has been quiet this race, has found 7/10 of a second on him that last time by. That gap down to 1.3 with 5 to go.
Yes, certainly, and it's going to be very, very close between these two. I reckon Martinez has got a lot of pace, 7/10 quicker that last time by compared to Matt Woods. So Matt Woods really going to need to get a bit of a hurry up here and try and do what he can. He was actually slower than Ross last time by as well. So Ross has started to check out a little bit from Wood, and do have to wonder if maybe Wood's starting to struggle a little bit with tyre wear.
Exactly, that could definitely be a way through. Tom Volstra also very nearly threw it in the wall, actually, that last lap by. Caught the gravel on the outside. In fact, he did hit the wall coming out to the Villeneuve chicane. He did just clip the wall, get away with it. He lost 3 seconds on that lap. That's why he's so close to Tapio Markela. So ultimately, everybody now is just starting to find the limit a bit too much. Hitting those mistakes, they'll have themselves 4 laps now to work it out between them. What has Jorge Martinez done this time by? He looks like he's within that 1 second window, and just like that, he's within 7/10 because he's closed down another 6/10 of a second, and that's Javi Rose straight on at Tamburello.
Yeah, he's made a mistake there by the looks of it. Well, he actually didn't even clip the grass, he just locked the rears on the way into the fish chicane, and unfortunately is going to have to serve to slow down. So Matt Wood's going to be even closer to a possible second place here, and Jorge Martinez is going to be even closer to a podium.
This is very, very awkward now between these drivers. Javi Rose was the slowest of the three of them that last time by, and then compounded the errors with another mistake at turn one. Going through the rights then, through Aqua Minerale and back up the hill again. Wood makes the mistake and runs wide. Here comes Marquez to the outside, and Marquez almost very, very aggressive, like, say, a Marc Marquez would be in MotoGP. He gets the move done so quickly.
Yes, certainly does. But Matt Wood's going to come back at him on the way down to the final two corners. He's not quite going to be close enough to make the move happen, though. So he's going to try and use DRS on the way down into turn number one. It is Matt Wood, and he's going to have it this time by actually, no, Kenius is probably going to have it as a result. No, he's not actually. It's going to be in favor of Wood, so I was right. So Wood's going to have the DRS on the way down to turn one. He's not quite going to be close enough to pull up alongside. He is, though. He's going to try and go around the outside, and he is, and Marquez just lets him on by.
Marquez knows if he wants second position, he's got to let the quicker car through now and get it back later. They've got 3 laps to work this one out between them here as they go on through. Volstra in position 5 will be looking to try and gain if something happens between them out there on the road. So anything can happen, and in the words of one legendary Murray Walker, it usually does. Beaters managed to find a way through on Linus Arang on this lap, so those are more places being done. But look at Marquez there, running a little bit wide through Piratella. He's looking every which way to get into the mirrors of Matt Wood. Wood has got to get himself up there, back within range of Javi Rose.
Yes, certainly. He's now back within range of getting a move done on Javi Rose. And Javi Rose with a 20.1 last time by. So they're really starting to struggle with tyre wear at this stage based on the way that their lap times are going. And there's not long left in this race too. So if Matt Wood can just continue to push hard and use those tyres up as much as he can without them going flat, obviously. But he's going to need to try and push hard here with only 2 laps to go.
Let's see what the gap is when they cross the line. I think Javi Rose has got just enough of a gap, then they cross, and you can see it's about 0.8 of a second here. Here comes Marquez thinking about it. No, Matt Wood had it covered as they go on through, but now they're going to be thinking about, okay, not about us here, Cam. It's about Javi Rose in front. It's about that move, and Markela has just got through on Volstra. That one for 5th place.
Yeah, certainly, and he's managed to get that one done on Volstra quite nicely as well. So Volstra going to have to try and concede the position here. If he can find a way back on by Markle at some point, he's going to be able to do it. Matt Wood's out.
Wow, just like that. Toza at Toza. Was there contact? Yes. Marquez running in deep, tags the left rear tyre, and round goes Matt Wood. So that decides that then. And Matt Wood again will not be very happy at the fact that his race has ended in ignominy at that moment in time. Just that one bit of contact, and it changes everything. Rose in second, and Marquez nowhere close enough to capitalise, Cam.
Yeah, certainly nowhere near close enough to capitalise on Rose at this stage, but Matt Wood will be feeling very, very hard done by after that move, and it was just the slightest bit of contact as well in the end by the looks of it. It was just enough to send him round, so he's going to be very, very unhappy about that move, I think, is Matt Wood, and he's ended up dropping in behind John Miller as well, so he's going to be in P7 at this stage, but certainly not going to be the result that he will have hoped and should have got in the end.
Yeah, he was definitely on for a podium, but that is racing sometimes. There is a little battle for 15th and 16th. The battle of the 1 lap down cars, Freckleton and Villa. Here, they're going to be side by side into turn number 1 here, and it's Villa around the outside who will get by Freckleton and will pick up the place without too many worries at all. So that's a change then for them in 15th and 16th position. But Javi Rose has got himself enough of a gap here. Jorge Marquez is definitely not going to be close enough at this moment in time to get there. But we move to car number 7. It's Michi Kaiser, who has led the second half of this race and has really owned it here from making that move with a little bit of drama with Javi Rose. But just like in Monza, here at Imola, Michi Kaiser, he is the king of Italy because it's his 2nd win of the season, and crucially, it comes here at a very important point. Javi Rose, the championship leader, will take 2nd place, and Jorge Marquez, well, he was close, but there's a little bit of controversy for that podium. He picked that one up very, very controversially.
I'd say he's probably going to be a little bit sheepish at the end of this race. Luckily, we're not going to have drivers in an actual paddock because I think there'd be probably a few words being shared in the paddock afterwards. But certainly, it was a very, very heated fight and one that went right down to the wire. And unfortunately, it ended up being in it Marquinez's slightly controversial favour.
Someone who's definitely not happy, Tom Volstra in the fiercely forward car. He had damage to the front wing. He finishes 5th place in a race where he had pole position. Looked like he was going to be fighting Kaiser and Rose all the way to the end. But that little spin, how much did that cost him in terms of championship efforts? That is points lost for Volstra here today. Everybody, though, is over the start-finish line. We can bring you the official classified results then here from the circuit. Autodromo Enzo Edina Ferrari, and here in Emilia-Romagna, it is Michi Kaiser who picks up the win in 54 minutes and 28 seconds. He wins by 9 seconds come the end over Javi Rose, with Jorge Marquinez finishing that one off in 3rd place with a little bit of dramas to go alongside that as well. Tapio Markala will take home 4th position then in this one, with 5th place going to a very, very disgruntled Tom Volstra, who had the pole position here today. John Miller III, quiet race from him, but he gains 1 place overall today to 6th place. That place was over Matt Wood, who finished in 7th place after a bit of contact with 2 laps to go, which spun him out from 3rd position at the time. Jacob Swiderski picks up 8th place, with Ewan Meredith in 9th overall. Nick Harwood looks like he was charging in the early stages, but he does gain 1 place to round out the top 10.
We have the likes of Ronaldo Augusto rounding out the top 10, followed by Daniel Beta, Luana Sarang in 13th, Nico Viranen in 14th, and then rounding out the top 15 is going to be Edu Villa 1 lap down, and then Frigerton, Canavas, Buffton, Aloma all 1 or more laps down, and then Aloma is going to be your first retirement, followed by Fletcher, Chantal, Harrington, and Green to round out the 23 car field.
And what a 23 car field it was here today. In 1 week's time, here on SimSpeed TV, we are going to be heading over to the North American continent, and we'll be heading to the circuit Gilles Villeneuve for what is the 8th round of the championship. It's a crucial round as well, because it's the last chance, you could say, of gaining maximum points before drop rounds start getting tallied on the scoreboards. They've got to be so wary to what they are able to do. The only place you can catch that right here with SimSpeed TV. On top of that, though, ladies and gentlemen, Scops is coming up in about 10 hours, maybe 9 hours, 50 minutes time, and that will be coming to you from the brilliant battleground that is Belle Isle. 60 vehicles over 2 splits, looking to try and get the most points possible. Who is going to be able to stop Madison Down's charge over the course of a championship run? That's something worth keeping in mind as well. That'll be happening, and of course you can catch all of that with SimSpeed TV. But from everyone who's got it done for us today, from Motum Simulations on the replays, from Scott Fountain on the cameras, and of course Cam Dancer has been on my left-hand side here today. My name has been Jake Sperry, and the King of Italy is Michi Kaiser. It's his 2nd win on Italian tracks, and it's been the only times that he's managed to pick up victories so far this season. Javi Rosto will feel like he walked away, leaving a little bit of something on the table. Same for Matt Wood, same for Tom Bolstra. A lot of drivers could have picked up a lot of points today, but ultimately, this will go down as a round where everyone will look back at the end of the season and go, well, I could have had just a little bit more. We'll see you in 1 week's time, of course, ladies and gentlemen, and that will be at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve.
This is fantastic. This is GT racing right now.
He's got traction, he's got rid of the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my god! Oh, big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's gonna get involved!
It's very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, here we go! Oh no! That's massive!
This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?